Welcome back to American Ground Radio. I'm Stephen Parr with Louis R. Avallone. This has been our 4th of July special, What Makes America Great?
Man, these 3 hours just flew by.
They go by pretty quick, don't they? Yeah. And we love that this is our 5th year doing this show. And I think some of the interviews that we've had this year, really some of the best that we've ever had on the show at
Absolutely, no doubt.
But I love doing this program, this particular program, each and every year, because I think it's just such a wonderful way to share the 4th of July, to celebrate our nation's independence by really focusing on the positive, on what is it that is special about this? What is it that's worth celebrating about this country?
And it's just a very simple question. And
that's what's so amazing about the show.
And it's different for everybody.
We ask, over and over, we ask 2 basic questions. What is it that makes America great? And when did you first learn that this country was something special? And every time we ask somebody those 2 questions, we get interesting answers. I challenge anybody who's listened to the show, try it. Why don't you ask that question? Tell you what, I'm going to try it right now. Louis, what do you think it is that makes America great?
It's opportunity. I mean, there are millions of Americans who have a success story to tell about their achievements. Immigrants who came to this country with little more than the clothes on their backs and minimal command of the English language. Single mothers who raised their families on just the sheer determination to provide the best opportunity for their children to achieve the American dream. And I think this highlights a point that we don't have to be defined by where we came from. Mm-hmm. We should be defined by where we're going. You know, unless you allow it to, why does our future need to look like our past?
It really shouldn't.
I mean, you can look at success stories from Abraham Lincoln, for example. He failed in business. He had a nervous breakdown before being elected president. Thomas Edison was told by a teacher he was too stupid to learn anything. The point is, if our past equaled our future, what chance, what hope would any of us have to better ourselves, to redeem our lives, to enrich those around us? Because, you know, I think about my story. I'm the first generation son of an Italian immigrant. Mm-hmm. And in much of the world, if your father is a bricklayer, you become a bricklayer. If your mother is a school teacher, you become a school teacher. So success stories of people in America who have risen up from nothing, they're so common that they are unremarkable in many ways, and they don't get mentioned enough. So the answer to your question is opportunity. That's what makes America great.
I think that's a really good one. Okay, you do the question now.
Oh, okay. Stephen.
Yeah.
What do you think makes America great?
Man, that's a really good question, Louis. I think it's the second sentence of the Declaration of Independence. That's the sentence that says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the sentence does go on much longer than that. There's a lot more in it about the role of government, about where power comes from, about what to do when government abuses its power. I believe that sentence was divinely inspired, and that sentence is the idea of America. If you claim to be a patriot is someone who loves their country. Yes, that's what that means?
That means you're devoted to your country.
You're devoted to your country. Okay. America was the first country that was founded upon an idea. And you can see the idea of America, the idea that created this country, in the second sentence of the Declaration of Independence. What that means is that if you claim to be a patriot, if you say, I love this country, then you need to love the second sentence of the Declaration of Independence. Look, think back to 2 of the most famous speeches in American history. You've got the Gettysburg Address, right? Mm-hmm. Abraham Lincoln. He directly referenced the second sentence of the Declaration of Independence in the Gettysburg Address. That's part of why the Gettysburg Address resonates with people so much, is because it's based on the idea of America. The other most famous speech in American history, Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, right? He directly referenced the second sentence of the American dream, of the American idea. He called it the American creed. This is the faith that America was built on. And again, it's the second sentence of the Declaration of Independence. And he says that, isn't it time for us to live up to the American creed, to fully live out that all men are created equal? When America is at its best, it's because we're living up to the second sentence of the Declaration of Independence. When we're at our worst, it's because we're not following the second sentence of the Declaration of Independence.
But I think it needs to be clarified. The American dream is not as much about material and monetary wealth.
It is not.
As it is the opportunity in which every person can attain their fullest potential, regardless of their circumstances of birth or position. Americans are great not because they were born in America. That's geography. The greatness of America is that it allows each of us to see the greatness in ourselves.
And this is where I think your statement of opportunity, my statement of the second sentence, is kind of combining here. Because in the second sentence, it says that we were created by the Creator. We were made in God's image. God is great. Well, if God's great and we were made in the image of God, that means there's greatness within us. And the way that greatness manifests in the real world is that we're able to see opportunity, we're able to pursue opportunity, and we're able to take advantage of opportunity in this country like in no other.
Well, and you can hardly talk about what makes America great without talking about the Creator, without talking about prayer.
Right.
Because our country has always needed prayer. You may
From
not
the founding.
Yeah, you may not have needed it, but our country has. It still does. And as you pointed out, it's right there in the Declaration of Independence. It's hiding in plain sight when it refers to the Creator.
Well, Benjamin Franklin said, how can any sparrow fall without God noticing? How could any country hope to rise without his favor? Benjamin Franklin, during the early trying times of this country, he was saying we need to pray. Look, how many people in America in this last year with COVID, how many people in America have been on their knees praying for God to heal our nation?
But see, without the Creator, and just for you pragmatists out there who aren't very spiritual, without the Creator, there are no rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's government's duty, as Stephen, as you point out many times, it's government's duty. It's their job to protect these rights for us.
Right.
And as a side note, that's why it's so important that we elect men and women who pray.
And the elected officials we had on the show today, every single one of them talked about prayer. They talked about God.
Because if we continue to elect more and more officials who don't acknowledge that our rights come from our Creator or that there is even a Creator at all, then how can these elected officials possibly pretend to protect our rights if they don't believe the Creator is the source of those rights to begin with?
They go in with the wrong mindset. They think their job is to grant rights, and that's why they create new rights that aren't really rights, that don't really make any sense and certainly aren't right. If Thomas Jefferson gave us our rights, we're all in trouble because Thomas Jefferson has been dead for a long time. That's not where our rights come from.
But I think woven in all of these interviews today is the fact that America was founded on the idea that all men are created equal, that we were the first country established not by ethnicity or conquest, but by a philosophy. And unfortunately, these days, I think too many younger Americans, especially, simply don't know what America is and what she represents.
And that was one of the warnings from Ronald Reagan as he was leaving office and he gave his farewell address in January of 1989. He asked that very question: are we doing a good enough job at telling our kids what America is and what she represents? One of the things we hope for you take from this show is that you'll spend part of the rest of the day today telling your kids and your grandkids what America is and what she represents in the long history of the world.
Oh, that's...
Because there's nowhere else like it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And so, hey, we appreciate all your time that you spent with us. We are going to be posting these clips up to our website, AmericanGroundRadio.com. You can go there in case you missed any part of the show or you just want to hear it or you want to share it around. Until then, may your pursuit of happiness bring you joy.